So today we're going to be talking about the Facebook audience building, and we're going to be talking a lot about how the algorithm works. And we're going to go into this deep dive so you thoroughly understand the opportunity that you have. It's important that you understand this, regardless of whether or not you get the technical nature of it. What I want out of this at the end is for you to understand that Facebook, Instagram, and all the Facebook platforms are absolutely a game changer for small business, especially your type of small business, right? Facebook loves your business. Facebook loves good news, good stories, fun things, happy stuff, which is what you guys live. You live and breathe in that area. Your stories are wonderful, right? Facebook loves that, and they reward companies that play in that area. There's lots of things Facebook won't allow on its platform. It actually loves what you do, right? Again, I've said this multiple times, we're not in love with Facebook just because. We're in love with Facebook because it works so well. And it's the only platform that we can find that reaches so many of your audience, so much of your audience, probably as much as 70 to 75%, if not higher, probably higher with the younger mums, 75 to 80% of the mums in your community, in a way that allows you to reach out to them before they've even heard of you, right? And you can target them before they've even heard of you and put in their mind the thought of doing business with you. And there's no other platform that allows that at the moment. As soon as there's a platform that's better than Facebook, we will tell you, because we'll move to it and we'll start going in that direction. I don't really care what platform we use. I want to use the platform that is the cheapest, most effective, a most powerful platform for you. Now, Facebook works in large markets and it works in tiny markets, right? So even if you're in a little market with not a lot of people, sometimes that's an advantage because you can almost make sure that the whole town knows about you, right? In a large market, you can segment out by zip codes and all sorts of things and target just the right neighborhoods and everything that you want. And what we have today is we have Russell, and he's going to go through this on a deep dive. As always, please ask your questions in the chat as you have them, and we'll go back and we'll answer them. Also, make sure that I uploaded the two previous trainings, the goals, mindset, and brand and messaging to the YouTube channel. Both of them now are up in the Facebook marketing group. Tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern time, this training will drop into the Facebook marketing group, but later this afternoon, it will actually be on the YouTube channel if you just can't wait, right? We also have some goodies and some PDFs and specific trainings in the Gymnastics Marketing Academy, which is a donation group. So you can donate, $0, or you can donate, infinity, whatever you want to help us keep our lights on. But what's most important is that you do get in there and you start using it. So all of this stuff works together. Today, take notes. We are recording this. Everything's going to be saved. Everything's going to be given to you. There's not going to be anything held back. But take notes just so your brain starts thinking about some of the things that Russell's going to talk about, because it is a little heavy duty. The worst case scenario, if you start feeling your mind is melting, right, is just to give it a chance to think about what Russell's saying and how you can wield it to your favor. And I will tell you right now, the clients that we have had that have been with us for more than 6 months, because as the longer you go with Facebook, the better and better and better it begins, all of them no longer think about where the next client's going to come from, where the next gymnast is coming from. They no longer have that problem. What that does for them is it allows them to charge more, right? Because we actually have one client that's gone from $70 a month average tuition to $130. And they keep raising the tuition because they're actually maxed out. They only can have 1,000 kids in their gym, and they raise their tuition hoping that it would drop down to about 900 because they think that's where they're comfortable. And those 100 kids do leave, but then they re-sign up again. There's more people sign up. So they've actually been able to increase their revenues, even though they've got an 8,000 square foot gym and only able to have 1,000 kids jam-packed in there, right? Now that's going to be a little bit different with this virus, right? They're probably not going to be able to have all those kids jammed in there, and they're going to have to change some ways that they operate. Now, many of them might not return. but they know they have a system that can basically get them to whatever level they want to, and they no longer have to worry about it. And I want you to have that ability as business owners, right? And that's what we're going to talk about. So with that, Russell, I'll let you take over. We've got Ella Kalam. You'll see Ella in there. She is with Creatively Disruptive. She's going to be managing the chat for us, and I'll just be watching the fireworks. So, all right. So, Russell, do you want to take over?
All right. Thanks, Andy. Everybody, good morning. Some of you might have seen me in the Gymnastics Marketing Group. Maybe some of you have been on one of our previous Supercharged courses. But for those who don't know me, I'm Russell Masters. I'm one of the co-founders here at Creatively Disruptive. And I guess one of my key roles here is to find new and innovative ways of driving our business forward and marketing businesses just like yours. I'm going to share my screen. I'll do a little preamble. I've got a little presentation. We can just kind of set some expectations around what we're going to cover today. The biggest thing I want to just make mention of is do take notes, do write down questions. If you don't get your questions answered today, or if you have some questions that come up tomorrow or over the next couple of days, please do use the Gymnastics Marketing Group to reach out, and feel free to reach out to me directly in that group. Just mention me or just ask your question, and we'll definitely get to it. But do make some notes today. We're going to go through some basic things about Facebook. We're also going to go through the actual structure of how you can set up a campaign to successfully reopen your gym. So with that, let me share my screen, which will be that one there. All right. Andy, can you just confirm you can see my the right screen of my slideshow? All right, you're muted, but I think your lips said yes.
It looks good. By the way, everybody, you might have noticed that Russell is another funny talker. He actually is in New Zealand right now, so he got up early for you guys. I am in Arizona, so I'm sweltering in the Arizona heat. So Russell, just in case you're wondering why he talks funny.
Yeah, that's right. So I am, I'm lucky enough to be, I live in the North Island of New Zealand, right smack bang in the center of it. So this is
a very family business, isn't it, Russell?
It is a very family business. We've, in fact, we have it's a family business in many ways, actually. We actually have our family is part of the business. Our business, the people that are our team members, we consider them our family. And all of our clients, we consider them as an extension of our family as well. So, but let's get back to me, because that's what this is about today. And then we'll talk about you as well. So look, I'm an adventure enthusiast. I'm commonly known as the Wizard of Ops. Andy gave me that name because I love just coming up with cool new ideas in the tech space. I'm also a parent and a husband, and I didn't put it in there, but I'm also a papa to a couple of grandkids as well. I've been marketing for kids activities since about 2017, but I've been marketing for over 20 years. And I developed the Kids Activity Center, what we call the Amplify marketing method, which is, and we'll touch on this with, branding as the new relevancy, but the Amplify marketing method is a way to, it sort of breaks the mold of typical marketing where you just give people one option to contact you and try and squeeze them down a funnel, and really embraces today's new marketing around branding and relevancy and customer experiences, and making sure that customers can, reach you really, really easily. And I was listening to Andy yesterday, and I know he touched on that, about making sure that people can find your phone number, can find your address, can click on to call you on mobile, basically just making it as easy as possible, and also making sure that people can find you in those different channels, whether they're on Facebook Messenger, whether they're on your website, whether they're on your Facebook page, whether they're on Instagram, and making it super easy for people to find you and connect with you. Also created the Kids Activity Center online courses. So all of the courses in the Academy, I've had a lot of involvement and a lot of fun building those, and we continue to build those along with my team, Melissa with the websites, and Jessie G, who's our production guru, Hannah Harper, who you spoke with yesterday. And our team has a lot of fun in bringing their knowledge into those online courses. So we work with over 60 kids activity centers currently, as well as some other kind of client divisions within our organization. And that's really important because everything I talk about today, Hannah talked about yesterday, Andy talked about the day before, and probably what you'll hear tomorrow. It's not just, as Andy said, it's not because we think Facebook's cool, it's because it's backed by data. Now, if you think we're working with 60 odd clients in kids activity centers, that means we spend close to $100,000 a month advertising children's activity centers. So we kind of know what's going on because we have so much data behind it. And that's the real key around everything is backing decisions based on data. Andy's favorite line is, we don't deal in hopes and dreams, we deal in data. And that's super important. So today, what we're going to cover, we're going to cover targeting and audience, because targeting an audience in Facebook or on the Facebook platform, which encompasses Instagram, WhatsApp, Messenger, etc., is super important because this really is the thing that defines this advertising platform. Platforms such as Google, which are fantastic, and we use those a lot, but they are different because they're what we call a search intent-based advertising platform. When somebody has a need, they search for it. Facebook is more of an opportunistic platform where you put yourself out there in front of people who would likely be interested in what it is that you have to offer them and likely be able to solve whatever problem that they have. And that problem in gymnastics could simply be trying to find something really good for the young one to do to give them confidence, to give them a good foundation for sport, so on and so on and so forth. So with targeting an audience, we talk about the who, so who it is that we're trying to target. We talk about the where, so where do they live? And this is one of the really, I guess, powerful features of Facebook, because it's the only platform where you can actually say, I want to target people in this, specific radius to my gym or within this specific zip code. Facebook is, the best targeting platform. Andy kind of covered that, and it's really just about, it really comes down to being able to laser target down to find the ideal customer and put your business in front of them. I'll talk about branding as a new relevancy, and then how to structure your reopen campaign. So let's talk about, Andy said I'll talk about the Facebook algorithm, and I'll talk about this now a little bit more briefly than maybe I could. I could go on about the algorithm for a long time, but the algorithm is defined by an acronym called BEAR. And what BEAR is the bid, so how much is being spent, plus the expected action, which is what Facebook thinks is going to happen with your ad, which is going to be based largely on your bid and also the relevance, right? So if you have an ad and you put a reasonable budget, $10 or $15 a day minimum, and your ad is relevant, your copy is good, your website is good, your website is secure, and all of these things kind of fit together, then you'll have that relevance. And then there's a fourth part, which is quality, which is your ad quality. So making sure that your Facebook ad account is not being constantly having card decline charges, breaking Facebook policies, ad disapprovals, etc., because that does have a bearing on it. So if you do that, then you're allowing the Facebook ad platform to work. So and when I say a budget of $10 to $15 a day, like minimum, that might be across a couple of different campaigns. So what it is spending money, making sure that your ads are relevant to the audience that you're targeting, making sure that your website is relevant and is secure and is good, and making sure that your ad account is quality and good quality, and that kind of covers the Facebook algorithm. And I'll go into that a little bit more when we, as we kind of build out a bit of a campaign. I'm kind of rushing through these slides a little bit because it is a bit of a preamble. I really want to get into building out the actual structure, and I want to make sure that I can, deliver that and have enough time so that we can go through that properly. So Facebook is the best targeting platform. As I said, Andy has covered that somewhat, but the key points are Facebook has 274 points of interest on us, and that's more than we have on ourselves, and it's probably more than we know about. And if you think about the closest person you know and love, think about how many things you know about them. I can almost guarantee you might not be able to come up with 274. So Facebook kind of really knows who we are, what we do, and as a result, this is the algorithmic part, kind of what we're probably going to do as well. The algorithm is it's almost like a living and breathing organism, right? It's constantly changing, so it's really important to stay up to date, with things in the industry, doing some research and just reading and keeping up to date with Facebook, but also keeping your ads up to date and your website up to date. Everything has to be kept up to date. It's not a set and forget and walk away and everything will be gold. It's a constantly evolving thing. One of the biggest tips I can give when creating Facebook ad campaigns is this: work with what Facebook wants and you will get results. There is no cheating. Anybody that gives you hacks to get around this or get around that, run a mile. Work with what Facebook wants. Facebook has an ad platform with a very smart algorithm that just makes sense to work with that algorithm, right? And the other thing with that is that Facebook is getting so smart, and Facebook's algorithm works best when you let Facebook do what we call the heavy lifting. And again, I'll touch on that a little bit more as we build out some campaigns. And then I touched on this earlier with the targeting around the where, zip codes, radius. So you have your gym that's located in a specific point on the map, and you can target people within either a certain radius around your gym, and I think Hannah covered this a little bit yesterday as well, or you can target people that live within specific zip codes, or you can target people with a combination, zip code over here, radius over here. So all of these things kind of add up to being, to making this a really powerful advertising platform. And if you think back to, running an ad in a newspaper or a magazine, which is very broadly targeted, it just goes out to a bunch of people, and you kind of hope that, it might hit some mums. It just gives you a lot more control around how you deliver your message, who you deliver your message to, and where those people that you want to deliver your message to live. So, it's super powerful. So who is your target market? I'm actually going to get out of that, and I'll cover that when we go into the ad campaign. But before I start on that, as I said, I know we've kind of whistle-stopped through these slides a little bit, but if there's, Andy, is there anything that you wanted to add in to those things that I was mentioning, or are we good to just?
Yeah, I think it's just important to know that from a targeting standpoint, and we're going to talk a lot about this. It's, sure, we can do radiuses, we can do all sorts of different things to go after like old style demographics, like where somebody is, how old they are, and what and what sex they are, and so forth. The reality is, what Facebook does, the magic of it is that it actually goes through the interests. And what Russell's going to go through what those are. So it's actually the 274 things that it knows about you is what you're interested in. And I think that's where the special nature of advertising on Facebook is that you're going to cater to your audience's interest, which means you'll only be served up on people's feeds that have a likelihood to be interested in you, which means they have a likelihood to make a positive decision to do business with you. No other platform, and I've been in, I owned a publishing company. I printed magazines. I worked for a TV station for a while. I've worked with a radio station. None of them have the ability to target like that. You don't have the ability to put your message in front of somebody using pretty much any other platform, including Google, where it comes down to what you're interested in, right? Interest is oftentimes based on emotion, and you guys have heard me say this a lot. Emotion is a driving factor in decision making. Facts is what we use to justify those decisions. So Facebook is this unique platform that's going to be able to find people that are most likely interested in doing business with you, with a bit of an emotional attachment to it. And it's just a game changer, especially at the cost. If you think $10 a day, right? That's $300 a month, right? I mean, no, it's not. It's $10 a day. Yes, it's
It's about
$300 a month. $300
Yeah.
a month. I don't know if you can advertise in a newspaper or any other platform for $300 a month, but not only that it's effective, that you will get results for it. And as we spoke about this yesterday, if you have $75 a month is your average tuition, and you get a child to sign up for you, and they stay for a year, which is about average, maybe a little bit on the shorter end of average. I think our data shows that the average kid stays with you guys between a year to 18 months. Some stay for 16 years, some stay for 3 months, but about a year to 18 months. So on the year average, one child signing up to you is worth $900. So if you get one kid a month signing up with your $300 spend, there's a $600 return there. Now, obviously that's a return on advertising, and you have other expenses involved. But if you get 2, 3, 4, even just 5 kids a month, you're way to the better. And this is why it's so powerful. As a small business owner, as a gym of a small market gym, as a gym owner of a small market gym, I just wish this was around when I owned our gym. It would have been so much easier, so much better. And this is why I get so excited about it. And then I kind of yell from the rooftops and try to get you guys' attention. So with that, Russell, get into the nitty gritties, because I'm sure everybody kind of wants to see how this works.
Sounds good. Sounds good. All right. So for those, if anybody hasn't already used the Facebook Business Ads Manager, let me just go into an incognito window. The URL you want to go to is business.facebook.com. And if you, when you're logged into Facebook, if you go to business.facebook.com, if it logs you into something that looks like that, then you have a business manager account. If it gives you something like this, then you don't. Super simple. Just click on create an account and follow the prompts. The first thing you'll need to do is you log in with your personal Facebook page, and that is the thing that authenticates you to use the business manager. It is a pretty simple process. Literally just follow your nose. It should take you less than 5 minutes to set up that initial part. And then again, if you do have any questions when you're setting it up, just reach out to us in the group. And we do have some trainings in the academy and also in the group around setting that up. But once you're into your business manager account, there's a big old menu here, and under create and manage, we're going to go into the ads manager, because this is where all of the magic happens. This is where we actually build out the campaigns. And you'll actually end up at a screen that'll look probably something like this, and may or may not have any ads in there. So what we're going to go through today is, and I've got 3 campaigns here, and these campaigns we actually used as our team training when we were developing this reopening strategy, and are also the campaigns that we used to demonstrate in the Academy course. I'll be able to show you what these look like, but what we're going to do is we're going to recreate these 3 campaigns. And we're going to do this in 3 steps, right? So the first step is about planning. The second step is building the campaign, and then the third step is talking about managing your budget, right, and setting some expectations around that. For those who have seen any of our previous lessons, be it on the Academy and the group, or on any of our courses, around building campaigns, this reopen campaign is a little bit different, because our goal is that we want to reach as many families as possible, and we want to do it for the best possible price, and we want to do it in the fastest amount of time, and make sure we reach as many of those people within a fairly short time frame, because we want to open, we want to help you open your gyms at a sprint, not a stagger. So we're going to use some campaigns that really kind of center around a lot of brand awareness, which just gives us the ability to, to reach people really nicely. And it's actually about using the Facebook algorithm in such a way that we don't want the Facebook algorithm to work for some parts as much as we would for other parts. And what I mean by that is when we click on create here, we'll get a create new campaign window, and the campaigns are broken down into 3 sections, right? So brand awareness, which is about getting your brand out in front of your intended audience. Consideration, which is getting your brand out with more of a product or service oriented kind of messaging. And then conversion, which is where you're actually going after literally conversions, signups, inquiries, measured actions that happen within a campaign. Now that's the native way of where these campaigns would be utilized. But what we do is we utilize these in such a way that brand awareness for businesses like yours is really, really powerful, because brand awareness, it really is about just making sure that you are in front of everybody with a really strong message, so that you're not just the number one gym out there. You are, as we've said before, you are the only one. And the way to be the only one is to make sure that you're in front of people all of the time, so that at any time when they think, you know what, I think Georgia is really interested in gymnastics because she keeps saying it, I'm going to go to this gymnastics club down the road because I keep seeing them. They're the only one that's on my mind. I'm not thinking of any of the other ones. And that's the difference between saying, I'm going to go to this gymnastics club down the road because it's the only one on my mind, versus I think I might try this one because they seem like they're the best one out of the other 3. So with the reopening campaign, what we're going to do is we're going to create 3 campaigns. And so from a planning perspective, when you create any campaign, what you want to do is you want to think, right, what is my outcome? What is my goal? So in this, our goal is to get a message about the status of our gym and the fact that we're either open or we are reopening. And we want to get that out to as many mums as possible in the shortest amount of time. So in order to do that, when I spoke with the team, we decided that one of the best ways to do that, obviously, is use brand awareness, reach as many people as possible. And this reach campaign objective, and you'll notice I'm going to hover over these little information icons, and these are your best friend, whether you've used Facebook ads a lot, or but especially if you've never used them before, because as you hover over anything in Facebook ads, you'll see they all have these little information icons, and it just gives you a little bit of context around what on earth this is. One big tip you can have here is think about this in real term language, like real life language. Don't think about this as some crazy Facebook term, because in fact, Facebook utilizes terminology that is applicable in everyday life. So reach, I want to reach the maximum number of people I can show my ad to. Well, that kind of makes sense. And if you want to dig deeper, then many of them will have a learn more option, which will open up a little sidebar here and allow you to go down a nice rabbit hole of information. But it will, any questions that you've got, you will be able to, address a lot of those questions and get hopefully the clarification you needed. So in terms of planning, we want to reach as many people as we can. And we talked about making sure that we can reach people, with this amplify method, so in different ways. So we want to reach people. We want people to be able to have the opportunity to give us a call. We want people to have the opportunity to maybe contact us via Facebook Messenger, because at the end of the day, we're using Facebook. So people are going to use Facebook Messenger. Let's control that rather than, and use that as a messaging tool. And we also want people to, potentially go to our website and utilize the contact methods that are available there, whether it's a contact form, whether it's an email, whether it's a phone number. You might have Messenger on there as well. And if your gym's fully open and in regular days, you might have people just, wanting to fight, like just literally drive down and walk in and see you. So what we're going to do is we're going to use a reach campaign, we're going to use a messages campaign, and we're going to use a traffic campaign. So reach as many people as we can. Traffic, to send people to a destination outside of Facebook, in this case our website. And then messages, to have an ad that allows people to contact us via Messenger. And so what we're now doing is we're putting this group of ads in front of the same people, but what we're doing is we're putting it in front of them in such a way that those who are more likely to reach out to you via Messenger will do that. Those who are more likely to jump on the phone and give you a call, or maybe send you a text message, or go to your website and do a bit more research and contact you via there. We're making sure that all of those contact methods are available and easily seen. The second part of our planning, so we've talked about like how we're going to what we call structure this campaign, right? What objectives are we going to use? How are we going to physically create a campaign that achieves those outcomes of reaching as many mums as possible in the shortest amount of time for the best possible price? The second part around that is who are we going to reach? So we know that primarily our target audience is mums with kids who, in this particular climate are not just kids who are interested in gymnastics, but kids who have been cooped up and looking for things to do. Now, as we start to reopen, not every sports center is going to reopen. So there are a lot of opportunities for kids who may not have thought about gymnastics or tumbling or chair or ninja, who, because of the lack of choices that might be available, might actually just go, you know what, we haven't got soccer at the moment, so maybe ninja would be a good option, or rec gymnastics would be a good option. So there's some really good opportunities to potentially get some kids in that might not have thought about this before, as well as from the virtual classes. Again, kids who might have not thought about it before and maybe taken part in some virtual classes thinking, actually, this is kind of cool. I want to do this a little bit more. So now so that understands the who, and so with that who, we know that, but what we also have to think about is we have to think about retargeting. So there's two types of audiences that we would look at creating, right? There's what we call we call this a cold audience. So this is an audience of mums who haven't heard of us before. So and that's where we utilize zip codes and radiuses and interests, and we're trying to find those mums and put our gym in front of them. But then there's another audience which is super important, which are those who do know about us. Maybe they've visited our website, maybe they've engaged with us on Facebook or Instagram, and actually being able to send messages directly to them. Because if they've heard of you, if they're not already signed up, then that's a really good way to, we reach out to a new mum. She thinks, okay, maybe she engages with you on Facebook, likes something, or maybe she visits your website, maybe checks out a program, but for whatever reason doesn't actually sign her kids up. Those reasons could be not interested at this time, or just simply got called away because there's a million other things going on. So what we want to do is we want to present them with an ad, maybe a week later. And, at that time they might go, actually, yeah, I did talk to my daughter, or, oh, that's right, I remember this, and I got pulled away because I had to go and, do something else. I am interested now, and they'll give you a call, sign up, go to your website, whatever. And so that's called a retargeting audience. So the two types of audiences, we've got a cold audience, which is potential new mums, and then we've got a retargeting audience, which is mums who have engaged with you at some level over the last, however long. And that length of time could be as long as a year or as short as just a couple of days, depending, again, on what your objective is. So we've talked about our outcome with the ad, and this is one of the slightly longer parts of creating a campaign, but it's absolutely crucial because it's like everything. If you know what your outcome is and you plan it out properly, then everything else will flow really nicely. So we know what we want to do, we know who we want to target, The next thing is we would need to know what we're going to say in our messaging. Now, Hannah went over the structure of ad copy yesterday, and also ad creatives, or the images that we use. And I just want to touch on that. It's really important to really take heed and maybe go back and watch that part of the video that Hannah did, because the structure of the ad copy is super critical. But the structure of these particular ad copies, we have, we do a ton of testing, and as I said, we're spending anywhere up to $100,000 a month in ads. We have a guy that all he does is runs tests, and we've tested different copy structures. Hey, what if we said this kind of thing instead of that kind of thing, or structured it this way instead of that way? And so it's backed with a lot of data, and it's backed with a lot of science. So feel free to use that actual copy. We've got, this is the copy here. And, again, you can just play this video back or Hannah's video back and literally use this copy, obviously replace the phone number and things like that. But the copy is structured in such a way that we know this is going to work. One of the things within planning we do is we don't even jump into an ad before we've actually written it. So we actually write out all of our ad copy. We just use Google Docs. You can use whatever you want. You can, if you've got the ability to add emojis, you can do that. Otherwise, you can actually just, write in there, insert explosion or something like that, so that when you go to, create your ad copy, which emojis you want to use. And emojis are great because they just help that ad copy to kind of be a little bit more fun, be a little bit more casual, be a little bit more like you're talking with a friend on Facebook, as well as being a little bit visually disruptive as well, because they can tend to catch people's eye. And they're also a good way to draw people to specific areas within the ad copy. For example, this checkbox draws you down to the fact that your child's safety is our priority, and for any mum, that's going to be super important. So that is the final step in the planning stage, right? We've worked out what we're going to do, who we're going to target, and what message we're going to use, as well as creating the image that Hannah went over yesterday. So happy smiling kids, with something about your opening, and that's going to have high contrast. It's going to stand out in the news feed, so when people are scrolling through with their thumb, they stop, they see the headline, and then they see the copy, and then hopefully they engage with your business. Planning over, now we start actually building out. So we know what we want to do, who we're going to go, and we're going to start building out this campaign. So the first thing we're going to look at doing is we're going to use the reach campaign. Now, there's another reason we use a reach campaign, because it's also the only campaign that's available that allows us to put a phone number in. So instead of the call to action button being learn more, the call to action button is call us. So when you tap on it, it has a click to call. Now for this, we would only use a mobile placement, because click to call doesn't work on desktops. And so I will talk through that. So reach, one of the big things, and I talk about this in all of my courses, and I'm a big stickler for this, is naming convention. So we always use CD because that's our company, Creatively Disruptive. We just use that. But what we're going to do is we're going to go call, now, reach. And what this tells me and any of my team when we're looking through here is that this campaign is it's a call now campaign. So the objective is what we're trying to get people to do is call now. And it's a reach objective. And we're going to call it S1, which is our own terminology, which means it's stage one, or a cold audience, or targeting new mums. So you could say S1, you could say new mums, but something that allows you, when you're scanning through your campaigns, to kind of go, oh, okay, I know what this campaign is about. I just recommend turn on campaign budget optimization unless you have a specific reason not to. We won't go too much into the details of why it has no bearing on this particular campaign, but just turn it on because it makes the budgeting easier for you. The daily budget in this one here, let's just put $10 a day, and we'll click on continue. This first one, I'm going to go through all of the audiences, and then the next one we'll be able to skip through that a bit faster and go straight through to the messaging. So again, we want to give the ad set a name. So we've got a campaign. Within the campaign, we're going to have what we call the ad set, and the ad set is where we define the parameters such as who we're going to target, where these people live, what these people are interested in, and if there are any I guess features of this campaign that are specific to this ad, then they will appear here as well. So the ad set name, we would put this is going to be a call now, reach, and we're going to call this interests, because we're going to use an audience that is built up of interests. We will put this as my gym. No, we'll use this demo page if I can click it correctly. And we're going to come down to the audience section. So this is the gold, right? The audience section is where you define everything about who's going to see your ad and where those people live that are going to see your ad. So the first section here is you can either create a new audience or use the saved audience. And I'll talk about saving an audience because we will save this, or using a previously created audience. What we're going to do is we're going to create a brand new one using the targeting. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at locations. So people living in or recently in this location. So obviously United States is going to be a little bit too broad. So let's assume that I have a gym that's located down the road from Facebook. And what we have here, and you'll see that there's this radius ring around the center of where my gym is located, and we've got the option to increase or decrease this radius down to as small as 1 mile and as much as 50 miles. And of course the amount of radius, and this was touched on yesterday, the amount of radius is going to depend on the density of your population, and really think about your current parents. How far away from your gym would they be likely to drive to your gym? So if you're in the middle of a densely populated suburb, it's probably going to be a lot less than if you're in a more of a rural area where people might drive 10, 15 miles. So think about that radius in relation to, and think about the radius in relation to where do people currently come from. The other thing that you can do in terms of radius, so you can either do a radius or you can do a zip code. Now, I don't know what zip codes by 2Hackaway, but I do know that there was a show called 90210, so we'll use this. So you can put a zip code, and you'll see that by doing a zip code, it very specifically targets that zip code, and then you can add additional zip codes. I don't know whether maybe 90211 might be very close. There we go, probably that was a pretty good guess. And you can see that now what we're doing is we're actually adding zip codes together to be very laser targeted into what neighborhoods we want to target, and that can be really powerful. The other thing might want to do is we might say that, hey, we want to target a specific neighborhood, but let's say our gym was located over here in Whitley Heights, and we wanted to do a radius around that, but we had this particular neighborhood over there that we really want to target. Well, what you can also do is you can click this, you can use this drop pin option, and you can say, let's drop a pin there, and we'll make that, maybe it's very densely populated, so we might make it, well, actually make it 2 miles. So we're going to target 2 miles around our gym, but we also want to target this specific zip code as well. So as you can see, the targeting in terms of where your potential new customers are, where your mums are, you can really get quite granular, and you can add multiple pins as well, right? So you can add pins and just really build up little radiuses, and you can get as granular as you want. The one bugbear I do have with Facebook is the map is not overly large, so you have to scroll in and out of a fairly small area. But I could drop another pin over there, and that one, I might say in that area I want to do 4 miles. So as you can see, you can build up a very, very, very specific targeting in terms of where your mums are. And this is super important, because if you just put your address in and just go for the standard 10 miles, it just might not be right. It might be too much, too little. You might miss people. And one of our goals is we want to get in front of and reach as many of our ideal mums as possible. And part of that targeting of being an ideal mum is making sure that they are in an area where they would be happy to jump in their car, drive their kids down to you more than just once a week. Write down any questions you've got on that targeting. I love talking about targeting, but we'll carry on from there. The next part of your audience building, excuse me, is ages. Now, this is an area where I'm a big fan of letting Facebook do the heavy lifting. You can say, hey, my mums, are likely going to be, maybe they're going to be, maybe you want to target people from 24 to, say, I don't know, 52 or something like that. If your mums are within a specific age range and you want to target age ranges, what I really recommend is target lower and higher, because what that's going to do is it's going to make sure that you capture everybody. What I can also pretty safely and confidently tell you is that if you leave the age ranges open, and you've got a Facebook pixel and you've got a Facebook ad account, Facebook kind of already knows who's visiting your website. Facebook definitely knows who's visiting your Instagram page. Facebook knows who's visiting your Facebook page and engaging with you. And Facebook's going to do a really good job of finding the people in the right age. But there's also the opportunity for, we've actually run specific campaigns for grandmothers and grandparents. And so they fall outside of that range. We've also had, instances where kids see it and they get there, hey, mum, I've seen this. So, you can leave this age open, or you can like specify an age range. And if you want to really just target a good age range, you could just set in there, excuse me, say 24 to 58, which will give you a nice capture. And you'll find that that Facebook will probably be targeting 26 to 38, 40-year-olds by default anyway. The other one is gender. So you can select, hey, I just want to show this to women, or you can select all. We typically, we'll typically show it to all for a lot of our campaigns, because again, Facebook, does tend to go 90% women and only 10% men. There are, single dads out there. There are engaged dads, and dads, sometimes some of us dads do have a real good interest in, what we want our kids to do. Most of us will say, hey, honey, I think this is a really good idea for our kid to do, and she'll make the call. But for this one, we will select women. But it's really important to understand that Facebook can do the heavy lifting. Facebook knows so much more than you do about your audience. And if you think about the targeting, think about it as giving Facebook some really, really clear guidelines of who you're trying to target, and then they'll go and do the magic. So in terms of looking for people who, by interest, right? So what we're talking about there is like, if I want to target a mum, well, what do I know about her? I know that she's a mum. I know that she's got a kid, and that kid will be aged between, depending on what age my classes are targeting, that age range of kids could be anywhere between 2 and potentially 18 years old. So let's start with that. Okay, so let's talk about a parent. So we know that a mum is a parent. So if I scroll down here, I can see some demographics of the labels on the right-hand side. So, okay, my mum is a parent, and she's a parent with, okay, it's not a parent with adult children, because that's not who we want. Maybe she's a parent with teenagers, so let's add that in. And then we can keep doing this and keep going through that parent, because we saw that there were some other ones. But a little tip here, just click on the all parents link and you'll get a nice handy dandy little list with some check boxes. I'm all about making things easy. So we have a list here. I'm interested in finding, okay, parents with early school age children, 3 to 5, 9 to 12. Maybe I've got some, real like toddler and tot programs. Maybe for this one, I'm not doing toddler and tot, but we've got some great demographics, right? Parents with preschoolers, early schoolers, preteens, teenagers, and toddlers. So that's a really good start. Now, one thing I will advise you on is this comes from a lot of third-party networks as well. So there's going to be a lot of mums that haven't been picked up within these demographics. So we kind of need to dig in just a little bit further. So if we think about what other things a mum might be interested in, and what you want to do is you want to think about mums within these age brackets, right? Because this is a good guideline. What would a mum with a kid, say, between the ages of 1 and 2 or 1 and 5 be interested in? So, these baby ones, it might be, say, Johnson's baby. So, that would make sense. And when we look at interests, what we really want to try and find out, because we're targeting women in a certain age range that live in a certain radius or zip code close to your gym, but we want to find things that a mum would be interested in, but someone that's not a mum probably wouldn't be, right? So, because if we do that, then we've got a greater chance. Now, we know that a mum would be interested in fitness or cafes, or there's a fashion clothing, beauty, all these sort of things. But so would other people, other women of those age ranges. So we don't want to use those because it's not going to allow us to kind of refine it down. But a mum with a toddler might be interested in Johnson's baby, whereas a mum who doesn't have a toddler probably isn't interested in Johnson's baby. And when we say interested, it's not just that they like them on Facebook. That is one indicator, but they may have engaged on a post, they may have written about them, they may have visited their website, because Johnson's baby will have a Facebook pixel on there, which Hannah mentioned yesterday. So Facebook knows that you visited their website, that you liked their post, that you liked their page, that maybe you talk about it, maybe you like the Johnson's baby meme. However you engage with Johnson and Johnson, Johnson's baby, it kind of knows that. There's a couple of things here, and the reason I used Johnson's baby is, and Johnson & Johnson as a brand, is that over on the right-hand side here, you'll see interests and employers. So do pay attention to what's on the right-hand side here, because you have interests, you have behaviors, you have employers, and you have demographics. And there may be one other one that I can't think of off the top of my head, but it's really key to actually look at and I think this is a classification of what this interest is around. So these ones here were a demographic. This one here is an interest. And obviously, we're not really going to target those who, like Johnson & Johnson employees, so people who have an interest in the employer side. So people maybe who have listed Johnson & Johnson as, as their employer, and so on and so forth. So we could click on interests. You're going to do this exercise, and you really want to come up with, and it takes a little while. In the Academy, we've actually got a list where you can copy and paste all of this, and I can share that. But what you want to do is you just want to keep going through each age group and say, what would a mum be interested in that nobody else would be? And to help you with this, over here, we have a suggestions option, and Facebook does a great job here. So this suggestions will give you some suggestions based on what you've already selected. And these suggestions will, I guess, almost mature based on what you are selecting. Now, the biggest tip here to make these suggestions really powerful is add a few interests yourself first, because what you'll see is that the suggestions are very, very related to Johnson's baby, right? To the young audience. And we don't want to make our audience very heavily focused just around mums with toddlers of 1 to 2 years. So, what we can look at doing is look for some interests, look for some things that a parent might be interested in if their child is aged this versus this. So you could say, for example, Disney, right? The Walt Disney Company, Walt Disney, Disneyland, maybe Disneyland, but maybe the Disney Channel. That's probably a little bit more mum related than Disneyland, because lots of people that are not parents go to Disneyland. Let's go up in the ages, and let's type in Girl Scouts. Again, there's an employer's option, so let's not get tricked by that. But we could go Girl Scouts. There's girl guiding and Girl Scouting. So there's a couple of interests we could do there. And when you see this type of thing where there's a couple of other options, then pick the first one, but know that there were some other ones so that you could just kind of explore that a bit further. And you could go through and say, okay, girl guiding and Girl Scouting, brownie girl guides. And as we're going through this, you'll notice that on the right-hand side, there's a little panel that comes up and it says size, and it's got the interest. So it says, additional interest, brownie girl guides. And it also gives a little description. So people have expressed an interest in or like pages related to brownie and girl guides. As I said, this is a little, it's a little light on the description, because Facebook doesn't probably want to tell you that it's basically about anybody that engages with anything to do with girl guides online, where their pixel or third-party tracking that they have access to basically can target those people. So the size is really kind of interesting, because you'll see that this employers one, there's only 7,000 people in there. So we probably, even if that was an interest, it's probably not worth targeting, because it's really quite small. And now this is not interest within your area, right? This is all of the interests, like right across the USA. Actually, no, I think this is worldwide. So and so, Girl Guide and Scouting, while it says 378,400, in your area might be, maybe a couple hundred or something like that. So we can go through and we can, just keep building out that the girl guiding one, and we can just keep going after these, these interests, and it is a really good idea to, to manually build out these interests. And what you'll find, though, is as you start typing things out, you might find that, as you type things like preschooling, oh, okay, there's nothing about preschooling, but there is stuff about preschool. You might type something in, and it's okay. Well, actually, it does come up, and it might not give you, some interests related about that. But what that means is that there's no interest that Facebook has available for you, right? So it doesn't give you every single interest in the world. So there's a little bit of trial and error, typing some things in, and you will see very quickly whether or not there is an interest related to what it is you're searching. So, for example, preschool, again, would a mum, likely be interested in preschool, and not a mum, quite what like could be, and yes, she could be. And so in that case, is there a target, an interest for, say, middle school? Well, yes, there is. So we can start building these up, and what we're starting to get is a little bit of a well-rounded set of interests, whereby now we can start clicking on suggestions, and you'll see that the suggestions are a lot more well-rounded, right? They're not super focused on a particular one particular interest, and because our interests span the interests of like different kids' ages, then the suggestions will also span those as well. And the suggestions tool is a really, really powerful tool, and it just allows you to go through here and go, oh, Nickelodeon, didn't even think of that, or or Mother Care, that's great. And so it just gives you some options to kind of like really spur your research targeting along. Now, one of the things that you want to be looking at when you do this is up on the upper right-hand side here, you'll see potential reach, right? This is potential reach, right? So it's an estimate of the size of the audience that's eligible to see your ad. And this is defined by your location. So if I took out, say, this one, my audience size does change. So this one here is related to the, the area that that you're targeting. One of the key things to do here is that sometimes people get really, really wound up in this targeting, and they keep, just adding tons and tons of different things. But there are some things that you add that really just aren't going to, you get to a point where you've just maxed out the potential audience, and you start adding things. And let's say we've really maxed this out, and I add in Girl Scout, if I can spell Girl Scout. Let's go, let's add this small one. And you'll see that the audience size didn't change. So there is a point whereby the audience size doesn't change. Now, data-wise, that means that, hey, people who are interested in, say, Brownie Girl guides are probably also already interested in, I think it was Girl Guide and Scouting or something. So we don't necessarily need to add that in. If it's an interest that doesn't impact your audience size, but it's something that you've not considered, my feeling personally is that add it in there anyway, because these are all really good indicators for Facebook, because what you're doing is you're telling Facebook, I want to find a woman aged between the ages of 24 and say 56 who lives in this area who is interested in these things, right? And there is the absolute gold in the targeting. You're being super specific around what you want, and then from there Facebook is going to take that information and it's going to take your ad and it's going to go out to Facebook and it's going to present that ad to people who are most likely going to take the intended action, which was the part of the algorithm, the EA, the expected action. And it's going to put them in front of that. And that's going to be influenced by the type of campaign that we did, which in this case was a reach. So it's just going to take your ad and it's going to reach as many mums aged between the ages of 24 and 56 years old who live in this area and are interested in these things. I'm going to pause there just for 1 sec to let everybody's brain just kind of just settle back down, and then we can move into the next area.
Can we answer some questions?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's throw a couple of questions and that would be great.
Okay, cool. So it looks like Irina, Vicky, and Catherine had some questions. So Irina asked, trying to create an ad account, it's asking for ad account ID. What ID should it be? And she couldn't add her business name. Do you have any advice for that?
Try to add an ad account.
Was she doing it through business.facebook.com?
Is it a brand new one?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, if it's a brand new one, then you might be trying to create a new ad account in the wrong way. You, rather than add an ad account, you want to go down a little bit further to create a new ad account.
Right.
All right.
Because an ID hasn't been
created.
Yeah.
And then Vicky said, would you target around a specific school if you are trying to build the after school program, or what is the best way to build that audience?
Absolutely. I think targeting, see, because the thing is that you want to target where you believe your mums are, and make sure that that is in an area that you believe that the mums who are in that area would be willing to drive to your gym, or wherever you're having your after school program. So targeting schools is definitely a great strategy, and all you need to do is just get the address of the school, type it in here, and let's say this school is let's say it's 40 Hacker Way. Type in the address of the school, and then what you could do is you could change that radius. But one of the things to just be aware of is think about are people living in that area, or are they in that area? Because if that school is in an area where maybe it's a little bit too far from your gym, you are going to target people who potentially live in that area as well. I mean, there is an option at the top to just, you know, say people living in this location or people recently in this location. The recently will also include people that live in the area. Basically, it's anybody who has been in that area within, you know, like recently, like the last kind of day or so, as opposed to living. And this is why we use the living in or recently in a lot, because it's, you know, it's for this particular type thing, because it's a good catchment. So I'm not sure if that answers your question, but you definitely can target schools if you believe that your mums are, you know, you can target them in that area. What might be a better idea is, if you're trying to target schools, is think about, you know, what suburbs or what zip codes do those schools service. So if those schools service this zip code, this zip code, this zip code, maybe, you know, go for where the mums are actually living as opposed to the school itself. But definitely test it. You know, one of the biggest things is just test it out. If you've got an idea, test it out and see how it works. Sometimes we can get surprised.
Cool. And then Catherine said, trying to find it. I put Pixel on Facebook as advised. How do I target the effectiveness of ad? So like return on investment.
Well, you can only really track the return on investment if you are doing some advanced targeting on your page that maybe captures specific events. Like if somebody calls you and you've got some advanced tracking on there that tracks every time somebody clicks on the click to call, or if somebody goes into your contact page, fills out a contact form, and that contact form goes to a thank you page, and you've got some tracking on that thank you page that says that, you know, hey, that person is a lead or an inquiry. And from there you can say, I spent $600 this month, and as a result I had 15 people click the call button. I had 30 people arrive on the thank you page from the contact form. So it's as far as tracking return on investment, that's a little bit more of an advanced thing. But I would also caution you to not get too far down the rabbit hole of trying to track return on investment for Facebook ads for a gymnastics business, because what you're actually looking at is, if you get hyper focused on that, there's a very, very big danger of forgetting about what Facebook ads are actually doing for your business, because you're not an e-commerce store where it's all transactional. It's actually about brand awareness, right? How many mums are you reaching? How many families are you reaching? You know, how many people are seeing your ad? How many people are clicking on it, going through to your website? How much is your traffic on your website increasing? Right. Those are the really key things.
And I want to add to that, guys. Like, if you advertise on TV, radio, and newspaper, there is no tracking. They tell you, hey, we're printing 200,000 newspapers. And they say our readership is 200,000. It's not. They print 200,000 newspapers. We've all seen a stack of newspapers, you know, get thrown into a trash can, and they kind of like sell you on, you know, on how many things they print, or how many people that tune in, or whatever. Those aren't necessarily, those aren't really good data. Now, we get a lot of data that we can look at and go, okay, well, we've had this amount of people click on it. We've had this amount of people go to a website. We've had this amount of people do an inquiry, blah, blah, blah. Those are all good, interesting things, but it makes up about 40% of what's happening. If you think about it, and we see this often, your ad is being served up in front of mom's eyes, and you know, every day. If you're in a smaller area and you've got a smaller audience, you could be seeing that ad rolling past as you're scrolling, you know, every single day, right? And it might take 2 months for that mum to see it, and she might never click on it, never engage, never do anything. But as she's scrolling, she's part of the impressions. She's part of the group of numbers that you see that show that you've had this kind of reach, or these impressions on people. And just the fact that she's seeing your message constantly is very similar to what you get out of a newspaper, very similar to what you get out of doing business with a TV or a radio ad. It's very similar. There's more that Facebook offers if they start engaging with it, but if they don't engage, you're getting kind of the similar kind of result. But all of the people that are getting the ad are actually people who are most likely going to do business with you. So what ends up happening is you actually get more walk-ins, more phone calls, more random things happening than you ever had before. And you might not even see it as a click. You might not even see it as an interaction or a like on your page. It's just because that mom has constantly seen you. And what's happened is, from a branding standpoint, this is why we were talking about this yesterday, in their mind, they start thinking about you all the time. They might have a little 2-year-old, but not interested in doing gymnastics until he turns 3 or she turns 3. She turns 3, and they've been seeing your ad for 6 months. And then they go, you know what, I want to get my little one into some kind of activity. You know, hey, there's Andy's Gymnastics. I've got to contact Andy's Gymnastics. I've seen that thing all the time. And then they do a little Google search, and then they find me, you know, find my website, and then they call, or they walk in, or they do whatever. So yeah, whilst the data is really, really good, and you will see return on investment, you will see clicks to your website, you will see if you've got things set up correctly, you will see inquiries, you will see a rise in emails and phone calls and all of that. But look at it as a holistic thing, and look at what you've done in the past. And think of Facebook as doing everything that your newspaper ads might have done, everything that your magazine ads might have done, doing everything that your TV ads might have done, radio, whatever you've been involved with, coupon books, but more, right? And quite frankly, the millennial generation and the Generation Z, they're not really listening to radio anymore. They're listening to iPod. They're listening to Spotify. They're listening to Pandora. They're not listening to radio, right? They're not watching TV. They're watching Netflix or Hulu or something. They're not doing all these things that once were real major staples in our lives. They're actually doing things differently. They're spending more time on Instagram, more time on Facebook than ever before. And you guys are right in the thick of it. And that's the point, I think. And the beauty of what Russell's talking about here, guys, is your ability to actually make sure that, you know, your ad, your impression, your branding is constantly in their face. Whenever they go onto Instagram, oh, there's a little ad for your gym goes by their eyes. Oh, whenever they go onto Facebook, there's a little ad. And over time, it builds and builds and builds. And what our goal is that every mum in your local community, in your targeting areas, know that you exist, right? Because as I said with our goals, we only want 10% of them to do business with you, right? 10% could be a massive number, depending on where you live. Maybe 20%. We don't need all of them. We just need most, you know, a percentage, probably a smaller percentage of them to do business with you and to reach them all the time. And then they start talking to each other. That's why over time, it's just tremendously powerful, right? So I hope that helped answer that question a little bit.
And real quick, how much exposure does $10 a day versus $25 a day get? And Pixel goes on your website.
Almost half. I know that's a very flippant remark, but it's literally that, right? If you think about, there's 2 key metrics that we would look at for exposure on Facebook, and those two key metrics would be, say, impressions and maybe a click-through rate, to really denote how much effectiveness $10 a day or $25 a day gets. So if you are spending, if it costs you $10 for 1,000 impressions, then $25 will get you to 2,500 impressions. $10 will get you 1,000 impressions. It is literally that simple. Where it comes down to it is that the question, a good question in that is, spending $25 a day versus $250 a day. Now, in your area, spending $250 a day for almost any gym that I can imagine, even right in the heart of LA or San Fran or something, is going to be too much. My advice on the budget is $25 a day is actually typically for most gyms a really good growth number, right? If you can reach to that, that's a good growth number. You will grow, you will grow nicely. But $10 is actually okay as well. And like, not everybody has, $600-700 a month to spend on advertising, especially when they're not sure about how it's going to work. So $10 is a really good day to start out of the gate. What I would say is, if you're going to spend less than $10 a day, just go and boost a post, right? Boost a really great post with some stories about, you know, what's happening in your gym. And
although make sure that that boosted post has some targeting.
oh, for sure, yeah, you still want to target
many of you do boost posts, but you just boost it and it just goes out to anybody in the local area. Make sure that you do this targeting build that Russell's doing, and then you boost the post using this targeting. If you don't, you're wasting your money. If you don't, I'll be happy to give you my address and you can just send me $10 and I'll show you what I purchased with it. You'll get more out of it.
Absolutely, and you're right. And the thing is, with boosting, you don't get as much of a granular control around your targeting as you do with the Facebook Ads Manager. But yeah, definitely, always make sure you target. Facebook without targeting is like a newspaper that has 200,000 readership, right? It's pretty much it's pretty ineffective. Yeah, and that's why Facebook is good.
I'm going to answer Corinne's question is about does CD receive any kickback from Facebook? I wish we did.
Yeah, that would be fantastic.
The only kickback we get from Facebook is that it's a platform that allows us to do a really good job for our clients, and our clients get a result. And as a result of that, our clients pay money to us. But Facebook really, it's an organism that's almost like its own country. They really could care less about any individual organization unless you're spending, you know, hundreds of millions of dollars. If you're at the hundreds of millions of dollars mark, they'll actually take care of you and build all your ads and do everything for you, and they give you a lot of love. Outside of spending hundreds of millions of dollars, they're going to give you this opportunity to kind of like to manipulate their system, but they don't do anything. So we are a partner of Facebook, and what the most we get out of that is a little bit of information and a little bit of added assistance that you guys don't have. So
yeah, and that's important. But you know, to become a partner, I mean, you know, we had to be spending, you know, close to $100,000 a month to get to that partner status. And that's one of the, as far as, so we don't get kickbacks, but we get benefits that we are able to pass on to people that we help, whether it's clients or people like yourselves that we're helping with information, because we, you know, we do get that data, and we do get some inside track knowledge as well.
Yeah, and to give you an example, Facebook did a grant. They did a let's help. You know, we're going to give $200 million worth of free advertising out. We didn't qualify for whatever reason. They wouldn't, and not just giving that out to people. They wouldn't. We couldn't even get $10,000 to help you guys. So, we're not getting much love from Facebook directly. That's for sure.
Yeah, but we love them. It's a bit.
We love them. Right.
All right. All right. Cool. And Laura, both. Instagram is part of the Facebook ad platform, and so when and I'll, in fact, you preempted my my next part here. So let me talk about this right now. So in terms of placements, right now we've got an ad campaign. We've said we want to target these people who live in this area who are interested in these things. Now we want to think about what we call placements. All right. And the description is great, right? It says, show you, what does it say? Show your ads to the right people in the right places. And what it also means is on the right devices, but also in the right channels. Facebook versus Instagram versus the audience network, which are third-party websites, and you know the network that you know Facebook delivers ads out to. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what I don't want.
Just to give a little bit more fleshing out of that, Laura, Instagram definitely has a younger demographic, so you're going to get the 35s and under a lot more in there. There are a lot, you know, many people have both, but typically, if I ask Ella where she spends most of her time, Facebook or Instagram, I'm guessing she'll probably say Instagram.
Instagram, 100%.
So when we're looking at the age group, and as the ages get older, they're probably going to stick with Instagram, although some of them might shift over to Facebook. Facebook is kind of like the big daddy, but then if you think about what Facebook is Instagram. Facebook is the Facebook platform. Facebook is the audience network, which means those are ads that you see on, say, the Huffington Post. That's Facebook owned space. So you can actually put your ad in the Huffington Post. So you're going to follow these these mums around whenever they're engaging in wherever they are. And the audience network are ads on lots of different major websites that people might go to. And then obviously there's WhatsApp, which is an app, communication app that Facebook owns as well, and you can actually serve up ads there. I just wanted to just quickly mention, Michelle did ask a question about, an ad option, for Facebook groups. Michelle, you can't, they don't have a facility to actually be able to directly promote a Facebook group like that. You can promote a Facebook group, because we do with ours, but we use the URL and we build out a regular ad using the URL to do that. Facebook, unlike a page where there is a button that says, create an ad, there isn't one for groups, if that makes sense. So pages are very important, guys. With your advertising on Facebook, you should have a page. It's nice to have a group as well, but you really need to have a page, in my opinion.
Yep, absolutely. Good stuff. Okay, so when you're at this part, by default, it says automatic placements, and it does say recommended. And look, unless you have a reason to do otherwise, when Facebook says this is a recommend option, just follow it. Don't use recommended options if you have a specific reason why you don't want to use a recommended option. I'm going to show you the manual placements just really quickly, because just to give you an insight into the fact that this is not, we've been talking Facebook on the Facebook, business.facebook.com. It's the Facebook Business Manager, but we're also talking about Instagram, Marketplace, right column, Instagram Explore, Facebook Messenger. So in stream, so when you're watching, you click on a video and you sort of get sucked down the rabbit hole of the related videos, in article, and audience network. So there's a lot of places that Facebook takes your ad and displays it. So what I recommend is we use automatic placements, and Facebook just will distribute your ad and if your ad starts getting great conversions on Instagram, you'll get more exposure on Instagram. And if it shows more engagement on Facebook, you'll get more on Facebook, and so on and so forth. And if it's an even mix, it'll evenly mix it. And once it trends one way, it won't always hit that way. The algorithm's constantly learning and evolving. So you might see that you get a large reach on Instagram in a particular part of the year, but then it might start, those ratios might start to shift. So it's using the automatic placement option, I personally think, is the best idea for you, unless you have a specific reason that maybe you're doing an ad and you just want it to show on Instagram for some reason. Then you could do it here. But again, I talk about the amplify method, and if you've got an ad that's great for Instagram, well, just let it be shown in different places, because you don't want to necessarily either A, restrict your audience, or B, quadruple your workload by having to recreate different versions of that, one for this, one for that, one for audience network, so on and so forth. The last part of this particular ad set, and when we've been going through this ad set setup, right, this is the same thing that you're going to see with pretty much every campaign. So we don't have to go through every campaign to see this. Each campaign will have this last one here, which for the most part you probably just don't even worry about looking at, but it's called optimization and spending controls. It's a fancy way of basically saying, how's Facebook going to deal with this ad. And again, unless you have a reason to change the defaults, just leave it as the defaults, right? The only thing here that I would potentially change is this frequency cap. And if we put our mouse over it, this is about keeping people from seeing it too often. You've all probably seen in your Facebook feed, like that ad that just keeps showing up. That's from Creatively Disruptive. But you've probably seen ads that are showing up over and over and over and over again. We try and keep our frequency control down so that we don't annoy you. Many advertisers will do that, but if that ad's showing up on your newsfeed every day, maybe twice a day, you tend to get a little bit, either A, you get annoyed with it, and so you stop that ad from showing, or you become, which is, you know, just as bad, you become numb to it, right? It's the, you just don't see it anymore because you've just seen it so often. So what a frequency cap does is how many impressions in a certain amount of days. And for this, 7, for this, I would say, you know, just for this specific example, I would say, you know, 1 to 3 impressions every 7 days. And what that looks at is, you know, really the size of your audience. Now, if and the amount of money you're spending. If you're doing if you're doing say $10 to $15 a day, then I would actually make that 2. If you're spending 15 to $25 a day, I would make that 1. And the reason I say that is we want to kind of reach as many people as we want. So the higher the frequency, the more likely that Facebook's going to show your ad, you know, 5 times to that person and 0 times to the other person. So by controlling how many times the ad gets seen, or how many impressions it gets, means that, okay, we're only going to impress it 2 times here, 2 times there. So that means that for the 1,000 impressions, we're going to potentially hit, you know, anywhere between, you know, 500 to 800 of those. So that's a little bit of a technical thing, but all I would say there is just, you know, 1 to 3 impressions every 7 days, and just, you know, see how that works for you, and see, you know, do you get, you know, does your phone start ringing? Do people start contacting you? Do people start commenting on your post? Because if they do, then it's working. We click the continue button, and this is the last part about creating an ad. And again, this is the same, pretty much the same thing you're going to see, whether it's a ad to your website or a reach ad or so on and so forth. Again, let's make sure we have an ad name here. So we'll call this, you know, reopen, and we're going to go call now. Look, I've got one I did before. So, and again, that's going to tell us that this ad is our reopening ad, and it's about call now. And call now is what I call the call to action, right? Of the thing that you want somebody to do. And the call to action in this case is primarily going to be driven by the button, but it might also be largely driven by the messaging. And so as you scroll down, through the section, we've got create ad. We want to use either a carousel, which is like the multiple images, or we want to use a single image or video. So we'll just leave it at that. But if you click on a carousel, what will happen is that we'll just change, and you'll have the ability to add, you know, multiple images with descriptions. You know, maybe tell a small story, you know, about your gym. For this one here, we're going to use a single image. And what we will do is we will change this image, and we'll pick one that I created earlier, which is, so let's just use this one here. So you select your image, and then down here we can put our primary text. Now, because we were really good in our planning, we can come over here and we can copy the text that we had written out beforehand, and we can literally just paste it into there. Obviously, you know, our phone number would be correct, and the copy would be finalized, right? So, you know, call us today at such and such. And, you know, it's not a bad option. In fact, it's a great option to also include the URL, not just for your gym here, but if you're talking about it, like in this case, we're talking about reopening. So if you have a page somewhere on your website that you're talking about the reopening of your gym, and maybe you're addressing some of the strategies and policies that you're putting in place to make sure that, you know, it's a safe environment for kids, then, you know, put a link to that. If you're, you know, so later on you're doing an ad for, and you're promoting your ninja class, or, you know, or your classes, or whatever it is, link to that internal page. Don't always just put your homepage URL on there. In saying that, there are cases where, you know, using your homepage is actually a really good idea as well, because, you know, it can be a really good entry point. But if you're talking about something specific and you have information that is specific to that on your website, point them to that actual URL. And so what we can do is we could say, you know, like learn more by visiting us, and just paste the website URL in there, and that will turn into a clickable link, just because it is a URL. And then in here, what we want to do is we're going to click on add a website URL, and this one here, this is where we call this this call to action button has the call now, and this is the only campaign option that has the ability to have a call now button where people can tap it or click it and actually call you. So if you see this call to action option, you'll see there's a whole ton of different things. So we've got learn more, book now, call now, contact us, get directions, which you can put your address into, and you've got sign up if you want people to sign up to a particular class. So if we use call now, then what you'll see is we actually have the ability to add a phone number. Now, what almost always happens, is that I need to put this. If you don't, from what I've seen, and it's not, it's one of these quirky things with Facebook. Every time I do this, I need to put +1 or +64, whatever the country. So if the phone number that automatically populates doesn't work, then just try putting the country code in front of it. It's just a little tip. It will pull the phone number from your Facebook page and your account. So do double check that that actually is the correct number that you want people to click on. You don't have to have this number. It could be a cell phone, it could be the gym number, whatever number it is, but do make sure that's obviously correct, because that's what people are going to click on. You will put in here your website URL again. So, and what you're going to notice is I don't type my website URL ever. None of my staff type website URLs ever. And the reason for that is if you go to your website, this website won't work because it's a dummy one, but if you go to your website, go up in here, copy the website URL, come down into here and paste it. And then once you paste it, if you do that, you can almost guarantee that you're not going to make a mistake and accidentally forget a dot, or miss a colon, or any one of the other silly little things that ultimately will result in somebody clicking on your ad going to nowhere. So copy and paste, don't type URLs. It's just a really, really good practice to get into. If you don't want to do a call now, all right, you might say contact us, and in that website URL, you could go to reopening, or you might have going to the contact page. To be honest, we don't use contact us a lot, but you might have, if we look at the messaging up here, we said learn more by visiting us at the gym, and then we had the call now call to action. But we could also say learn more. Now, if we change it from call now to one of these other ones, then what will happen is that the call to action will be this website URL here. And so in that case, we want to just make sure that that website URL is correct. As far as the call to action, which one is the best one? Again, it is a little bit of testing, but the best advice I can give you here is think about what you want a parent to do, as opposed to what you think is right, and then test it. Right? If you click learn more and you're having people go to a website, make sure that when they go to the website that you're taking them to somewhere where they can learn more about what it is that you're talking about in your ad. That's where not sending them to the homepage is a really, really good idea, because when they click learn more, they're expecting to learn more about what it is that they've just seen in the ad. So make sure that you do that. If you're clicking sign up, make sure you give them the ability to sign up somewhere or start a sign up process. If you're doing contact us, make sure you take them to a place where they can contact you, right? So just think about that customer experience. Think about they've seen the headline, they've seen the creative, they've read the text, and they're now doing what it is that you've said you want them to do next, which is, learn more, sign up, call now, whatever. Make sure they can actually achieve that outcome that you want them that you want them to take.
Can I just add something here, Russell? This is why, guys, yesterday I was talking heavily about making sure you audit your websites. If you go to your website and you're not really happy with it, you need to think about adjusting it and upgrading it and changing it. Because if you're planning to do this with Facebook, Facebook's wonderful for getting people interested in your business. Because it's online, ultimately, it's going to end up that, you know, even if you have a call now button and they click the call now and it calls you, there's a good likelihood that they might just check out your website anyway because they're now looking into you, right? They're trying to find out what's going on. Facebook will work really, really well if you've got your online platforms in shape, right? And that includes your page. Your page is going to have a lot more visitors. Your website's going to have a lot more visitors. Hopefully your business will have a lot more visitors. But that's why we want to make sure that, you know, all of our platforms are looking in good shape. So when we spend this money to reach out to them, when we're putting out our best foot forward, that it is the best foot forward that we have, right? So it's really, really important that you do get your website in shape, that you do have your page in shape, that you do have all of these parts well put together, so that experience is really, really good. Like, imagine looking at this as Preston said, this cute little girl, and it's a really eye-catching little ad. And if somebody is trying to make a decision as to, you know, if they have a little girl about the same age, it's probably going to get them to stop and go, what is this? There's a very nice feeling about it. What we want to do is when we click on this ad and they go to wherever we've got them going to, that feeling stays, that it doesn't suddenly get dropped on a page with no photos, with no smiling faces, with no good feels, because all of a sudden it's going to be like, this doesn't feel right, and people are going to drop off. We want to keep that sense of feeling and emotion going all the way through to the time that they contact you. So
yeah, absolutely.
Just to remind you to make sure that your other parts of the process is good, because like ultimately Facebook is made up of, you know, a nice Facebook campaign, a well-run Facebook campaign is possibly made up of 20 to 25 different moving parts. Each moving part that you're not doing a good job in is going to lose opportunity and lose people. People are going to get to that point and it's not quite done right. You might have 100 people get involved. They get to a certain point, 10 of them drop off because that first step isn't quite right. They get to another step, another 10 drop off because that isn't quite right. There is a reason why you get 100 people coming in and maybe one person actually engages with you. Some of it is because they're just not ready. Some of it is because they're just having a look. Some of it is, you know, a very personal thing to them. But many parts of it can be how you're set up and how you're presenting yourself. What we want to do is the only reason why they haven't done business with you is because of something personal on their end, not something that we have control over, right? And it literally, as I said, one kid is worth $900 if the average spend is $75 a month. One, right? Imagine if you get 20 come in, that's nearly $20,000 of revenue, right? If you get 100, right, over a year, let's say you get 10 kids a year coming in, you're looking at $100,000 of revenue, right? If things are done right. And I bet you a lot of you would be very happy to have an extra $100,000 of revenue right now. We need to make sure that we're doing that. Sorry, Russell.
No, you're right.
We're starting to get like, just to give you a little bit of a time warning, we're starting to get into an hour and 40 minutes.
Yeah, we're pretty much done here. I'll just finish this last little piece off. So once so we've got our ad, we've got our copy, we've got our headline, we've got our URL. We've decided what call to action we want. We've made sure that call to action is going to, actually enable them to achieve what it is that we're wanting them to do. And that's pretty much all you need to do there. Obviously, what we need to do here is do turn on your Facebook pixel. You do have to have a Facebook pixel installed, but you don't have to switch it on. It is imperative in my eyes to switch your Facebook pixel on. The reason this wasn't switched on is I've switched it off by default, because one of the key things that you want to do always when you have finished with an ad, before you click the review or the confirm, is you scroll back up to the top of the page and you go through everything. You must check, you must proof and double check every ad, because it just eliminates mistakes. So you go, is my ad name right? If I've got multiple Facebook pages, am I using the right one? Have I got the right image? Yes, I have. That's the image I wanted to use. Is my copy right? Have I proofread it? Have I made sure that, oops, my phone number's not right? Is my headline right? Is that what I'm wanting to say? Have I made sure that there's no spelling mistakes? Is my website URL correct? So let me, let's copy this URL here and, open it up into a new tab and literally paste it and make sure that that website opens up. Yes, it opens up. It opens up to the right page. It's great. Come down to this one here. Click on the preview URL. Do the same thing. Honestly, I have run thousands and thousands of ads. I still do this. I still do this every time, and as a result, make very few mistakes. It's just a process. Make sure your call to action is right. If you've got a phone number, make sure the phone number is right. If you're not 100% sure, call it. Make sure that the Facebook pixel is on. And then once you have done that, once you're 100% sure, click on confirm, and your ad will then go into review mode, which can take anywhere from 1 to 24 hours normally. So there we now have this call now reach ad, and so you just the ad campaign build process is pretty much the same throughout all of the different ads, depending on what objective that you're trying to achieve. Some of them do have some slight differences, like the messenger ad has the ability to say, what message do you want to use in your messenger ad? But traffic, you're putting your URL in there. Conversions, lead forms, there's a few different things. But to start with, if you haven't done this before, using a combination of, say, reach ads to reach as many people as you want, maybe using some call now buttons, a traffic ad to get people through to your website, build up some traffic to your website, and a messenger ad will be some really, really great things that you can do to get in front of people, with different objectives: phone call, Facebook Messenger, and traffic generation. And it'll be a good way to sort of holistically get your brand out there and and get in front of people and start growing your business. Just make sure I turn that ad off.
Have we finished?
That is it.
All right. So we might have a few more little questions, but basically in summary, guys, I know this has been a hard, there's been a lot of information. It's a bit of a hard slog to go through a lot of the stuff. The main thing I want you to understand is that the power to really granularly target exactly the people that are most interested in your business at a very reasonable price is in your hands. You can do it, right? Now, if you don't, if you're unable to do it yourself, I highly recommend that you look at trying to bring somebody onto your team to do it. It can be an employee, it can be somebody working with you part-time or full-time, but they need to understand this, and they need to be staying up to date with this stuff, right? We spend a lot of money trying to stay up to date for obvious reasons, because we're dealing with 60 gyms, 60 plus gyms, and we're also dealing with e-commerce. So I mentioned before that our fact that we're dealing with e-commerce really allows us to make sure that the edge to our knowledge is very, very sharp, because it has to be. And that basically just rolls into the fact that we're going to be very good on the gymnastics, interest driving, branding and messaging driving for you guys. So, but the fact is, if you don't have the ability to do it, you need to have the ability somehow, right? And it doesn't need to cost the earth. The things that you're going to benefit from it is a constant roll of interest coming in. There's constantly going to be people contacting you, calling you, walking through the door, sending you emails and messages, constantly finding out about you. And you no longer have to worry about people where your next customer is coming from. You also can start raising your prices to some pricing that is right. Like I said to you on the first call, some of you are pricing your business at huge discounts because that's the only way you see people joining or staying. There's a real cost to that, right? If you're paying, if you're charging $75, but you could have been charging $85, that's $10. If you've got 200 kids, You know, that's $20,000 a month that you're losing. That's $240,000. That is very expensive advertising, right? So be thinking about, you know, what you what you're doing and what the knock-on effects are of discounting. You know, maybe I'm an evangelist, maybe I'm just such a big fan of what you guys do, but the reality is you do wonderful things. You do things that are absolutely worth a lot of money, right? You know that there's parents that just think that you guys are the bee's knees, if we use that term, right? That you guys do wonderful things for their families. There's real value in that. $50 a month, which I know we had a couple of clients that were charging $50 a month. $50 a month. How do you make a profit out of that if you're paying your coach a decent wage, right? If you're paying them $12 an hour and you're charging $50 a month, what's that? 12 times 4 is 48. You're making $2, right? It just doesn't work out. We need the rates to be $80, $90, $100 a month. And the way to do it, to fill you with the confidence that you can, is to have that constant stream of interest, right? I think, Karina, you mentioned in here, one of your questions was that most gyms in the United States are on monthly tuition. Not most, I wouldn't say most, but many are. And that you go by sessions up there. And what are the pros and cons? I would say the pro of monthly is that you probably over a year can charge more, or you do end up charging more, because parents are much more likely to pay. Let's say you're doing a 12-week session and I'm doing a monthly session. I could charge maybe $80 a month easily, maybe $85, maybe $90 a month, and it's not such a big deal. You might struggle to get to 200, right? Where 90 times 3 is 270. $200 once a quarter might seem like a lot of money. So there's a pro and con. Some parents don't feel that way. They throw it on a credit card. It's not a big deal. Some parents do, especially those with maybe a little bit lower income. But I think there's benefits from longer sessions and shorter sessions. When we owned our gym, we started with longer sessions and we actually switched to shorter sessions, and it actually did affect our profitability really well. If you want to keep people for sessions, you could have them sign up for sessions, but bill them monthly. There's lots of different things you can do. But I think if I'm honest with you, that the main benefit of billing monthly or charging monthly is your ability to charge more over time. Because obviously the longer your session is, the larger that dollar amount is, which people don't see. If you're charging them for 3 months, they don't see that it's $90 a month. They see $270 I've got to write. Oh, okay. And you can avoid that by breaking down the chunks, I guess would be the answer to that. And then we got Randy. Randy says many great ideas and we'll be working on it. Great. Please do. This is going to be uploaded onto YouTube today. It'll end up on our Facebook page tomorrow. Our Facebook group tomorrow. Russell and the team have built out a more granular, more information in the Facebook, in the Gymnastics Marketing Academy, which you can sign up to. I keep talking to you guys about it. Please do it. There's no reason why all of you shouldn't be in that Marketing Academy. Basically, you could all join for nothing, right? But in there is broken down 5-minute classes where you don't have to sit through 2 hours of video on YouTube. You can actually go, how do I add a pixel? There's a very specific little class on showing you how to add a pixel. How do I do a Facebook account? There's a very specific class on how to do it. How do I build an audience? How do I do this? So you can just dip in there and do it. And if you've got somebody on your team that is very technologically proficient, if you've got a staff member who's maybe a really good coach, but she needs more hours or he needs more hours, but maybe they're really good online and they have a real hankering for it and they maybe enjoy it, you could actually get them in there. Maybe they can learn some of this stuff, right? Obviously, I would love you guys to all spend money with me and have my team do it for you. But I also know that many of you might want to just do it yourselves, right? And figure it out yourselves. And I'm totally okay as long as you do it, because it's a game changer. It really is a game changer, guys. So, we got Sylvia just said, how do I sign up to the Marketing Academy? There's links in the group. There's links on all the YouTube videos that we're putting in. There's links at the bottom in the message, and you can click on it and go straight in. I can drop in Russell, if you can drop into chat the actual link to the academy, feel free. And like I said, guys, we were going to charge $300 a month for it. Then the pandemic happened, and we were like, you know what? Let's just do it open for donation. So I do want to warn you all that Kajabi, which is the platform that the course is on, requires you to put in your credit card number, even if you're doing zero. It's not us. We're not asking for it. We're not going to charge you. Kajabi won't charge you. But part of their operating is they want to make sure that you're a real person. So they want to see this, so there's not a whole bunch of nonsense, bots signing up to our course platform. So, but you don't have to pay. When you get in, it's for life. We're never going to take it away from you, and we're updating it constantly. At some point, when this is all over and we're all making loads of money because we're all on Facebook, and every single kid in every single neighborhood that we're in are all signing up and see our brands and sees gymnastics clubs and so forth. We will probably put it to a point where if somebody gets on the bandwagon late, they'll have to pay to be in, right? But right now we have no plans on changing it from a donation anytime soon, right? It's really important for us to help you guys survive and do well, right? Because we won't have the majority of our business if you don't, right? So that is the self-serving nature of what we're doing. Is you are our people. If our people aren't there, we don't have anything. So we need to make sure that you guys are okay, because down the line, when everything turns around, we'll be able to work on getting back to profitability once you guys are profitable as well. Trying to remember anything. Oh, the final thing is, again, you've got all the information here. Tomorrow, we're going to be doing once you've built all the stuff out, once you got your message going really well, and you start getting that interest coming through, how are we going to handle that interest? What are we going to do with it? And that's what we're going to be talking about tomorrow. So some best practices on how to handle the incoming interest, and what is a really good process from which you can put people through when you are open. But we're also going to talk a little bit of, what do we do before we open? Hey, I can't sign anybody up to a class. Well, you could, but as we spoke about yesterday, you might want to build a list of people that have intention to sign up as soon as you open, right? Do a $10 a day campaign and just build up a nice solid list of people. Once that once you know, hey, I'm going to open next week, you can call them all, email them all, text them all and say, we're opening next week. Let's get you signed up. What I don't want you guys to be doing is find that you had 500 kids before the pandemic, and now you have 200, and you're having to scrape through a summer with 200 kids, because I really honestly worry that many of you might not be around in October, right? I need you to survive it, right? So what if we can run a campaign a couple of weeks to a month before you open? You've got a big list of people. Maybe you've got 200 of your regular kids come back, and we can add 350 from the list, and then we can work on trying to get to 500, and then we're off. That's the analogy of opening to a sprint rather than a stagger, right? I don't want you staggering out the door. Sure, you're open, you're happy about it. Oh my gosh, I'm not really making any money. And all of a sudden I have things that I have to do, and it becomes a rough period. And we need to really, really avoid that. So if you are struggling, if you don't feel that you have anybody who's on your team that you can help train up, if you don't feel that you have the ability to do it yourself, at least you now know what's possible. Please reach out to us. We're doing a gym reopening program, which is $500. I'll just tell you right now, so there's no hidden stuff. It's $500. We build out everything that Russell was talking about. We build out all your messaging. We make sure everything's set up correctly so you can actually get a result. And and it's just a one-off cost. It's not $500 a month. It's just a one-off $500. We manage it for you for the first month. We make sure everything's going. If at the end of that first month you're good to go, then just run it yourself, and you can just make sure everything's. It's like spinning plates sometimes working with Facebook. Keep those plates spinning as long as you can. Get as much interest coming in as you can. Make the little changes as you wish. or you can choose to actually start working with us as well. It's up to you, whatever you want. We just want to make sure that you have as much help. So as we always do, this is our philosophy, and share this with gyms. Our philosophy is we're going to give you all the information that we use and we do if you want to try and do it yourself, or if you don't want to do it yourself, we'll do it for you. It's always going to be that option for you. You have two options. Do it all yourself with our knowledge and our assistance. We'll give it to you for free, or we'll do it for you. And you just need to reach out to us. So with that, does anybody have any other questions? Anybody? If you want to throw a question out there. That's it, Russell. Thank you very much. We basically get Russell and we allow him out of the cave because he lives in a cave. We throw him food and he's just figuring out how to do all of this stuff. We let him out of the cave today to talk to you guys. We're going to throw him back in the cave to get things going.
Just, I have a hard stop in 2 minutes because I've got a meeting with our Google team. But in the academy, one of the things I just want to mention is that yes, it's lifetime. Yes, we're constantly adding new content, updating existing. What we've got in there at the moment is what I went through today is like building up one of those campaigns. We've got a step by step on exactly what you need to do across about 7, 8, 9 videos on what you need to do to build your own reopening campaign. It's exactly the same. In fact, these are the lessons that we use for that we create internally to say, hey, this is how we're going to do it for our clients. Included in that is ad copy and paste audiences, and all of the ad creatives like the images, right? So it's all kind of done for you. So if you want to get going at a sprint, not a stagger, as Andy likes to say, and you just want to make it easy, then that's kind of like the next step from here. So from here, from today, right, from this series, we all know you need to advertise. It's just a question of how you do it, get the right mindset, get the right messaging, get the right ads, deal with all of the inquiries. The next part of that is actually implementation.
Right.
And that's the most crucial thing, because all this knowledge is completely useless if you don't implement. So implementation is then, figure it out yourself, learn how to do it in the academy, or get us to do it.
Right.
But either way, that's always been our philosophy. I got to shoot. So
okay, I very, very rarely, say these kind of things, but I guarantee you, if you do this right and you do it well, you will do well. As long as you're operating a good program where people come, right, and enjoy what they're learning and they stick around, right? All we're talking about is getting people to your door. Once they're at your door, it's up to you to keep them in there. But I'll tell you right now, if you do this right, you're going to basically turn on a faucet of business. And you just fill up your jug, turn it off when you got enough, and get on with it. And then when you need more, you just turn on more, or you just keep it turning all the time. You constantly have a stream of interest. And it's truly this. And what I wanted to have happen over these 4 days, and we'll finish it up tomorrow, is you to thoroughly understand it. I didn't expect you to learn it all and to become experts on it. There's a lot of stuff we're throwing at you, but I need you to understand the opportunity that you have, right? So with that, if you don't have any more questions, we're going to start working on uploading this into YouTube. Feel free to go back in and dig through it if you wish. Start thinking about what your future is. I really hope that you can turn up tomorrow and we can go over what we're going to do with the interest once it's developed, and tactics and ideas of what we're going to do with this interest that you're now going to be generating with this strategy. And I really wish you guys the best. We're absolutely here for you. Ella, the rest of the team are all in the Gymnastics Marketing Group. You can ask questions. We will always answer them. We're not going to be self-serving. It's something I find a little difficult, especially in these times, to be too self-serving. So we're going to be taking care of you and answering the questions. You are not alone. So with that, I'm going to send in this recording.